Evelyn Harper grew up in a sleepy town called Cloverfield, Oregon, where the biggest excitement was the annual Apple Festival. She's 25, with hazel eyes that sparkle with hope and a smile that hides the weight of her world. Her grandmother, Clara, raised her after her parents passed away. And now Clara's sick, her heart failing, the kind of illness that demands a surgery costing $80,000. Evelyn doesn't have that kind of money, not even close. She's a dreamer, sketching designs in notebooks, but life's kept her grounded, working odd jobs to scrape by. That is, until a desperate idea changes everything. Across the state line in Seattle, James Carter rules Carter Enterprises, a tech empire built by his grandfather, Henry. At 26, he's got sharp cheekbones, a voice that commands rooms, and a reputation for being untouchable. But there's a catch. Henry's will states James must marry before his 27th birthday, just months away, or lose the company to a board of greedy suits. James doesn't do love, doesn't believe in it, not after watching his parents' messy divorce. Marriage? It's a business deal to him, nothing more, so he turns to a discreet matchmaking agency, one that promises no strings, just a signature on a marriage certificate. Fate steps in when Evelyn stumbles across the same agency. They offer her a deal: marry a stranger, stay married for a year, and walk away with enough cash to save Clara. She hesitates, her fingers trembling over the contract, but the thought of losing her grandmother pushes her to sign. James does the same, miles away, both unaware of who's on the other end. They never meet, never see each other's faces, just exchange a few texts to coordinate the legal stuff. A quick trip to the courthouse, a proxy wedding, and it's done. Evelyn gets her money, James keeps his empire, and they plan to divorce when the year's up. Simple enough, or so they think. A few weeks later, Evelyn's in Seattle, her savings drained from Clara's medical bills, clutching a resume and a dream. She's landed an interview at Carter Enterprises, a long shot for a small-town girl with no fancy degree. The office towers over the city, all glass and steel, a world away from Cloverfield's dusty streets. She steps into the lobby, her floral dress a splash of color against the corporate grays, and immediately feels out of place. Employees whisper as she passes, their eyes cutting through her like knives. Leading the pack is Megan Brooks, a senior designer with a smirk sharp enough to draw blood. Who let the thrift store in? Megan sneers, her clique laughing behind manicured hands. Evelyn's cheeks burn, but she straightens her spine, determined to prove she belongs. Upstairs, James sits in his corner office, staring out at the Puget Sound, his phone buzzing with a text from his wife. She's complaining about her stingy husband again, how he barely checks in. He types back, "Mine's just as bad, always whining about money." He chuckles, a rare sound, then tosses the phone aside. His assistant, Nathan Reed, knocks, reminding him of the day's interviews. James barely listens, his mind on the clock ticking toward his inheritance deadline. Little does he know, the girl stepping into the elevator downstairs, the one clutching her sketchbook like a lifeline, is about to turn his world upside down. Here's where it all begins. Evelyn Harper, a small-town dreamer from Cloverfield, Oregon, with hazel eyes and a heart full of hope, and James Carter, the steely CEO of Carter Enterprises in Seattle, bound by a secret neither understands. She's fighting to save her grandmother. He's racing to secure his legacy, and a sham marriage ties them together in ways they can't yet see. This is a story of two strangers, a lie that starts it all, and a love waiting to break through the chaos. Evelyn Harper steps out of the elevator at Carter Enterprises, her palms sweaty, her floral dress wrinkled from the long bus ride from Portland. The Seattle office buzzes with sharp suits and sharper tongues, a far cry from Cloverfield's gentle pace. She's here for an internship, a chance to turn her sketches into something real, but the air feels thick with judgment. Megan Brooks spots her first, leaning against a desk, her designer heels clicking as she saunters over. "Well, look at this," Megan says, her voice dripping with mockery. "Did you wander in from a yard sale? We don't hire charity cases here." Her clique snickers, a pack of polished wolves circling their prey. Evelyn clutches her sketchbook tighter, her throat dry, but she forces a smile. "I'm here for the interview," she says, her voice steady despite the heat rising in her chest. The interview room is a glass box, all cold lines and gleaming surfaces. Evelyn sits across from a panel of stone-faced managers, her resume trembling in her hands. They fire questions like bullets. "No degree? No experience? Why should we take a chance on you?" She talks about her designs, her love for creating beauty from nothing, but their eyes glaze over. Upstairs, James Carter watches through a one-way window, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He's not supposed to be here, not for a lowly intern hire, but something about her file caught his eye. Maybe it's the desperation in her application letter, the raw honesty of it. He doesn't know yet that she's his wife, the one he texts complaints to about his mystery spouse. Back in the lobby, Evelyn's hired, barely. "Intern, bottom rung," the HR rep grunts, tossing her a badge. She's assigned to the design team, under Megan's thumb. Day one is brutal. Megan dumps a stack of busy work on her desk, coffee runs and filing, smirking as she says, "Don't get comfy, small town. You won't last a week." Evelyn bites her lip, her fingers itching to sketch, but she nods and gets to work. She's not here to fight, not yet. She's here for Clara, for the paycheck that'll keep her grandmother breathing. But the whispers follow her, cutting deeper each day. Thrift store trash, they call her. Loud enough to sting, quiet enough to dodge blame. Then comes the elevator moment. It's late, the office emptying out, and Evelyn's hauling a box of files when the doors slide open. Inside stands Mr. Dawson, the janitor, his hands shaky on his mop. The box slips from her grip, papers scattering, and he bends to help, his knees creaking. "Oh, you don't have to," she says, kneeling beside him. "Nonsense, miss," he replies, his voice warm. "Folks don't usually see me. Nice to be noticed." She smiles, real this time, and they chat as they gather the mess, his stories of old Seattle filling the air. James steps in just then, unnoticed, his eyes narrowing as he watches. He's used to people ignoring Dawson, stepping over him like he's invisible. Evelyn's kindness, her ease with the old man, it sticks with him, a flicker of something he can't name. That night, Evelyn collapses onto a rented cot in a cramped Seattle apartment, her phone lighting up with a text from her husband. She types, "Work was hell today. My boss is a jerk and everyone hates me." Across town, James lounges in his penthouse, the city skyline glittering beyond his window. His phone buzzes, and he reads her message, smirking as he replies, "Same here. My wife's a nag, always complaining." They vent back and forth, strangers bonded by frustration, never suspecting they're talking about each other. Evelyn laughs at his dry humor, a rare bright spot in her day, while James feels a tug of warmth he brushes off as nothing. Next morning, Megan ramps up the torment. She accidentally spills coffee on Evelyn's sketches, her apology dripping with fake sugar. "Oops, guess you'll have to start over," she says, her eyes gleaming. Evelyn salvages what she can, her hands shaking, but she doesn't snap. She's tougher than they think, forged by years of scraping by in Cloverfield. James catches the tail end of it, striding past on his way to a meeting. "Enough," he barks, his voice low but lethal. Megan freezes, her smirk fading, and Evelyn looks up, startled. He doesn't meet her gaze, just keeps walking, but the air shifts. She doesn't know why he stepped in, doesn't know he's starting to see her. Days turn to weeks, and Evelyn carves out a space, small but hers. She stays late refining designs, proving her worth one pencil stroke at a time. James watches from afar, his texts with his wife growing longer, more personal. He doesn't admit it, not even to himself, but she's creeping under his skin. Evelyn, meanwhile, clings to her mystery husband's words, a lifeline in this cold corporate sea. Their two souls circling each other, blind to the truth, their lives tangled in ways they can't yet untangle. Evelyn Harper's days at Carter Enterprises settle into a grueling rhythm, her desk a fortress of papers and half-finished sketches. She's been an intern for 2 months now, her hands stained with graphite, her spirit bruised but unbroken. Megan Brooks keeps the pressure on, her taunts sharper with every passing week. "Still here, small town," Megan says one morning, tossing a stack of revisions onto Evelyn's desk. "Guess you're too stubborn to quit." Evelyn grits her teeth, nodding silently, her focus on a design project that could change everything. It's a pitch for a new app interface, sleek and intuitive, something she's poured her soul into. She stays late, the office lights dimming around her, determined to make it perfect. The day of the pitch arrives, a Friday afternoon in the conference room, all glass walls and polished oak. Evelyn stands at the front, her floral dress swapped for a borrowed blazer, her voice steady as she unveils her work. "It's about connection," she says, clicking through slides of soft blues and flowing lines. "Making tech feel human." The managers lean forward, nodding, a rare flicker of approval in their eyes. James Carter sits at the head of the table, his face a mask, but his fingers tap the armrest, a tell he doesn't notice. When she finishes, the room claps, a sound that echoes in her chest. "Good work, Harper," one manager says, and Evelyn's heart leaps. Megan's smile tightens, her nails digging into her palms. Word spreads fast. By Monday, Evelyn's the talk of the floor, her design slated for development. Megan corners her in the break room, her voice low and venomous. "Think you're special now? You're nothing but a fluke." She shoves past, leaving Evelyn rattled but resolute. That night, Evelyn texts her husband, her fingers flying over the keys. "Finally did something right at work. Maybe I'm not a total failure." James, sprawled on his leather couch, reads it and replies, "Told you you're better than you think." "My day was a mess, though. Too many idiots." She smiles at his gruff tone, a warmth blooming she can't explain. James starts finding excuses to linger near Evelyn's desk, dropping off files himself instead of sending Nathan. He catches her humming once, a soft tune from Cloverfield, and it sticks with him all day. He doesn't know why he's drawn to her, why her quiet strength pulls at him. Meanwhile, a new player enters the game. Lydia Pierce strides into his office unannounced, her heels clicking, her perfume sharp. "Hello, husband," she purrs, tossing a fake marriage certificate on his desk. She's the woman he thought he married, the agency's pick, and now she's back demanding $3 million to keep up the charade. "You need me to secure your inheritance," she says, her eyes cold. James clenches his jaw, torn between paying her off and digging deeper. The tension spikes during a business trip to San Francisco. A client meeting James insists Evelyn join. They're side by side in a sleek boardroom, her notes meticulous, his presence commanding. After, the team heads to a rooftop bar, the city lights sprawling below. Evelyn sips water, keeping her distance, but Megan's there, her smile too wide. She slips something into James's drink when he's not looking, a favor for Lydia, who promised her a cut. James downs it, his head spinning minutes later. Evelyn notices first, his words slurring as he grips the railing. "You okay?" she asks, her hand on his arm. He shakes his head, the world tilting, and she pulls him aside, panic rising. It gets worse. James stumbles, his knees buckling, and Evelyn catches him, her small frame straining under his weight. "Stay with me," she says, her voice firm, guiding him to a cab. The driver speeds them to a hotel, the nearest safe place, but James is fading fast. In the room, Evelyn's hands shake as she dials Nathan. "Something's wrong with him," she says, her breath hitching. Nathan's voice crackles through. "I'm on my way, keep him awake." She splashes water on James's face, his eyes fluttering open. "Evelyn?" he mumbles, his hand brushing hers, a spark neither expects. She freezes, her heart racing, then pulls back as Nathan bursts in. The hospital's a blur of white walls and beeping machines. James is stable, the doctors muttering about a sedative too much in his system. Evelyn sits by his bed, her sketchbook forgotten, her eyes fixed on his sleeping form. Nathan arrives, his face grim. "Someone spiked him," he says. "Megan was there. Lydia's been calling." Evelyn's stomach drops. The pieces clicking together. James stirs, his voice rough. "Harper, you still here?" She nods, her throat tight. "Couldn't leave you like that." He looks at her, really looks, and something shifts, a crack in his icy walls. Back in Seattle, rumors fly. Megan spins a tale, whispering to the team that Evelyn's chasing James, a gold digger after the CEO. "She's shameless," Megan says, her clique nodding. Evelyn overhears, her fists clenching, but she keeps her head down. James, recovered, storms into the office, his eyes dark. "Who saw what happened?" he demands, his voice cutting through the chatter. No one answers, but he knows. He texts his wife that night, works a circus. "Someone tried to take me down." Evelyn, curled up in her tiny apartment, replies, "Same here, people suck." Their words weave a thread neither sees, pulling them closer, step by secret step. Evelyn Harper's rise at Carter Enterprises hits a jagged edge. Her app design's a hit, earning her a permanent spot on the team, but the victory's bitter. Megan Brooks watches from her corner office, her jealousy a living thing, twisting her smile into something feral. She spent years clawing her way up, and now this small-town nobody's stealing her spotlight. She meets Lydia Pierce in a dim Seattle bar, the air thick with cigarette smoke. "He's protecting her," Megan hisses, swirling her drink. "James won't let her go." Lydia leans in, her voice smooth as silk. "Then we make her disappear. I'll pay you double." Megan nods, her eyes glinting, a plan forming like a storm cloud. Evelyn's oblivious, her days a blur of work and late-night texts with her husband. She's at her desk one afternoon sketching when Megan saunters over. "Need you to run an errand," she says, handing over an address scribbled on a napkin. "Client pickup near Tacoma, now." Evelyn hesitates, the address odd, an industrial zone. But she grabs her coat. It's a trap, and she walks right into it. The warehouse looms, rusted and empty, the air cold as she steps inside. A shadow moves, then another, and before she can scream, hands grab her, rough and unrelenting. Megan steps out, her smirk cruel. "Thought you could take him from me?" she says, her voice echoing off the walls. They drag Evelyn to a basement, her wrists bound, her heart pounding. Megan circles her, a predator with prey. "James was mine first," she spits. "I saw him years ago, helped him when no one else did. You don't deserve him." Evelyn struggles, her voice hoarse. "I don't even want him like that." Megan laughs, sharp and unhinged, then swings a metal pipe. It catches Evelyn's side, a sickening thud, and she crumples, pain exploding through her. Blood seeps through her shirt, her vision blurring. But she fights to stay conscious, Clara's face flashing in her mind. James Carter's in his office when his phone buzzes, a text from Evelyn, short and strange. "Heading to Tacoma. Back soon." He frowns, unease prickling his spine. Hours pass, no word, and he calls Nathan Reed. "Find her," he orders, his voice tight. Nathan digs, tracing her phone to a dead signal near Tacoma's old docks. James grabs his keys, the drive a haze of speed and dread. He reaches the warehouse, its silence eerie, and hears a muffled cry from below. He descends, his footsteps loud in the dark, and finds her, slumped against a wall, Megan looming over her with that pipe raised again. "Stop," James roars, lunging forward. Megan swings at him, but he dodges, tackling her to the ground. She thrashes, clawing at him, her screams wild. "She's ruining everything." He pins her, his breath ragged, until Nathan bursts in with security, cuffing her as she spits curses. James turns to Evelyn, her face pale, her eyes half open. "Hang on," he says, lifting her gently, her blood staining his shirt. The ambulance ride is a nightmare. Sirens wailing, her hand limp in his. At the hospital, doctors swarm, their words a blur until one pulls him aside. "She's stable, but there's something else," the doctor says, his voice low. "She lost a pregnancy, 2 months along. Did you know?" James freezes, the air sucked from his lungs. Pregnant? He didn't know, couldn't have, and neither did she. Guilt crashes over him, heavy and cold. He sits by her bed, her breathing shallow, and whispers, "I'm sorry," though she can't hear. When she wakes, her eyes search his, confused. "What happened?" she asks, her voice weak. He hesitates, the truth a weight he can't unload yet. "Megan attacked you. You're safe now," he says, his hand brushing hers. She nods, too tired to press, and he vows to keep the loss buried, at least for now. Back at Carter Enterprises, Nathan uncovers Lydia's role. "She paid Megan," he says, handing James a bank record. "And there's more. Your marriage to her, never legal, paperwork glitch years back." James's jaw tightens, his mind reeling. If Lydia's not his wife, then who is? He texts his wife, needing her steady words. "Rough day, someone got hurt, my fault," he types. Evelyn, propped up in her hospital bed, reads it and replies, "Not your fault, people are crazy. I got hurt too." Their messages intertwine, a lifeline in the chaos, neither knowing they're comforting each other. Megan's hauled off, ranting about James, her obsession laid bare. Lydia vanishes, her phone dead, but James doesn't care. He's at Evelyn's side when she's discharged, driving her home to her tiny apartment. "You didn't have to," she says, her voice soft. "Yeah, I did," he replies, his eyes on her, dark with something new. She feels it too, a pull she can't name, but the shadows of that basement linger, and so does a truth he's hiding. They're closer than ever, yet miles apart, the secret of their bond ticking like a bomb. Evelyn Harper limps out of the hospital, her side aching, her spirit frayed but intact. James Carter drives her back to her Seattle apartment, the silence between them thick with unspoken words. He walks her to the door, his hand hovering near her elbow, ready to catch her if she stumbles. "Rest up," he says, his voice rough. "Call if you need anything." She nods, her hazel eyes meeting his, a flicker of gratitude there. He lingers a moment, then turns away, the weight of her attack and that hidden loss pressing on his chest. Evelyn watches him go, confused by the warmth she feels, a thread pulling her toward him she can't untangle. At Carter Enterprises, James buries himself in work, his office a fortress of glass and steel. Nathan Reed knocks, his face tense, a folder in hand. "Got something big," Nathan says, sliding it across the desk. James flips it open, his eyes scanning the pages. "Lydia Pierce isn't your wife," Nathan explains. "The agency messed up the filing 3 years ago. Marriage never registered." James leans back, his mind racing. "Then who is?" he asks, his voice low. Nathan hesitates, then drops the bomb. "Evelyn Harper. Her name's on the real certificate, signed the same day as yours." James stares, the air gone still. Evelyn? His intern? His savior? His wife? Across town, Evelyn recovers at home, a cramped Portland rental she shares with her grandmother, Clara. She's on the couch, a blanket over her knees, her phone buzzing with a text from her husband. "Feeling lost today," it reads. "You okay?" She smiles faintly, typing back, "Rough week, got hurt, but I'm healing." Clara shuffles in, her gray hair tied back, a tray of tea in her hands. "Who's that mystery man you're always texting?" she teases, setting it down. Evelyn shrugs. "Just my husband, the fake one." Clara chuckles, then nods at a black credit card on the table. "Found that in your bag. Fancy. Who gave it to you?" Evelyn picks it up, her brow furrowing. "James, my boss, said it was for emergencies." She stares at the card, its sleek surface catching the light, and a memory clicks. Months ago, her husband sent her a card just like this, a lifeline when Clara's bills piled up. She grabs her phone, her hands trembling, and dials the number she's texted 100 times. It rings, and upstairs James's phone lights up, the same number flashing on his screen. He answers, his voice cautious. "Hello?" Evelyn freezes, her breath catching. "James?" she says, her voice a whisper. He goes silent, then, "Evelyn?" The line crackles with realization, a bridge snapping into place. Clara watches, her eyes wide. "What's going on, honey?" Evelyn drops the phone, her mind spinning. "He's my husband," she says, the words tumbling out. "James Carter, my boss, the guy I've been texting is him." Clara blinks, then laughs a hearty sound. "Well, I'll be. That boy who drove you home? Your stingy husband's the big shot?" Evelyn nods, dazed, piecing it together. The late-night rants, the shared frustrations, the comfort they found in each other, all with the man she's worked beside for months. She grabs the card again, its weight suddenly heavy, proof of a bond she never saw. James paces his penthouse, the city skyline a blur beyond his window. Nathan's words echo. Evelyn Harper, his wife. He remembers her in that elevator with Dawson, her quiet strength in San Francisco, her hand on his in the hospital. It fits too perfectly, and yet it terrifies him. He texts her, testing the waters. "Need to talk. Can we meet?" Her reply comes fast. "Yes, tomorrow, my place." He exhales, his heart pounding, a mix of dread and hope he can't shake. Next morning, James arrives at Evelyn's door, his suit traded for a sweater, his guard down. Clara opens it, her grin sly. "So, you're the husband who never visits," she says, ushering him in. Evelyn stands in the living room, her arms crossed, her eyes wary. "Is it true?" she asks, her voice steady. "You're him?" James nods, stepping closer. "Yeah. I didn't know either. The agency screwed us both." She searches his face, then softens. "All those texts, that was you?" He smiles, faint but real. "Every word." They sit, the air thick with questions. "Why didn't we meet?" she asks. "I wanted it quick, clean," he says. "Thought you did too," she nods. "I needed the money for Clara. Didn't care who you were." A beat passes, then she frowns. "But now? I can't be the other woman, James. Not if you're still married." He leans forward, his voice firm. "I'm not. Lydia was a lie. You're the only one." Her breath catches, her heart tripping over itself. She wants to believe him, wants to feel this pull, but fear holds her back, a shadow of doubt she can't shake yet. Evelyn Harper stands in her Portland living room, the rain tapping against the windows, her heart a tangle of hope and hesitation. James Carter faces her, his sweater damp from the downpour outside, his eyes locked on hers. "I love you," he says, the words raw, spilling out like they've been trapped too long. "I didn't know it was you, Evelyn, but it's always been you." She stares, her breath shallow, the weight of his confession crashing over her. "You're married," she whispers, stepping back. "We both are." He shakes his head, closing the gap. "No, mine was fake. A deal to keep my grandfather happy. Henry's will forced me into it. I don't even remember her face. What about you?" Evelyn's hands tremble, her voice soft. "Same. A contract to save Clara. We met once, signed the papers, and that was it." She looks up, a spark igniting. "So we're both free?" James nods, a half smile breaking through. "Almost. 3 days and the divorce papers clear, then it's just us." She wants to believe him, wants to leap, but the scars from Tacoma linger, and she hesitates. "I need time," she says, turning away. He nods, respecting her space, and leaves, the rain swallowing his footsteps. Back in Seattle, chaos erupts at Carter Enterprises. Lydia Pierce storms into James's office, her smile a blade. "You can't ditch me," she says, slamming a forged document down. "I'll take half your company if you try." James stands, his voice ice. "You're nothing to me. That marriage never existed." She laughs, cold and sharp. "Tell that to Henry. He'll believe me." She's right. James knows it. His grandfather's old school, easily swayed by tears and lies. He calls Nathan Reed. "Get her out," he says, his tone lethal. Nathan escorts her, but Lydia's already dialing Henry, planting seeds of doubt. That night, James drives to Evelyn's, the rain heavier now, his resolve steel. He knocks, and Clara lets him in, her eyes twinkling. "Fix this, boy," she says, nodding toward Evelyn on the couch. He kneels before her, rain dripping from his hair. "I meant it," he says. "You're my wife, my real one, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Evelyn's eyes well up, her voice breaking. I love you too, I just didn't know how to say it. They lean in, their foreheads touching, the world fading until a crash shatters the moment. The window splinters, glass raining down, and Megan Brooks steps through, her eyes wild, a knife in hand. You don't get him, Megan screams, lunging at Evelyn. James pulls her back, his arm shielding her as Megan swings. She's nothing, Megan shrieks, her voice cracking. I saved you years ago, James, from that drunk on the street. Me? He freezes, a memory flickering. A girl, a scuffle, a kind act he'd forgotten. That was you, he says, stunned. She nods, tears mixing with rain. I loved you then. I love you now. Evelyn grips his hand, her voice steady. Let her go, James. She's lost. He nods, pinning Megan until Nathan bursts in with police, their lights flashing through the storm. She's cuffed, sobbing, her obsession dragging her away. Henry Carter arrives next, his cane tapping, Lydia at his side. What's this nonsense? He growls, eyeing James. Lydia smirks. He's abandoning me, Henry. Your grandson's a liar. James steps forward, Evelyn at his side. She's the liar, he says, handing over Nathan's folder. No marriage, just fraud. Henry scans it, his face hardening, then turns to Lydia. Out, he barks. And don't come near my family again. She stumbles back, defeated, her heels clicking as she flees. Henry looks at Evelyn, his gruff voice softening. You're the real one, eh? Good. Keep him in line. He winks, then heads out, leaving them alone. James turns to Evelyn, the rain slowing outside. 3 days, he says, his hand finding hers. Then no more secrets. She smiles, her hazel eyes bright. No more running, she replies, pulling him close. They kiss, soft at first, then fierce, the storm a witness to a love forged in chaos. Megan's gone, Lydia's exposed, and Henry's blessing seals it. They're not just husband and wife by paper now, but by choice, their hearts finally aligned. Evelyn Harper wakes in her Portland apartment, the morning sun spilling through the curtains, soft and golden. The chaos of the past days feels like a distant echo, the rain replaced by a quiet calm. James Carter sleeps beside her, his arm draped over her waist, his breathing steady. She traces his face with her eyes, the sharp lines softened in rest, and marvels at how they got here. 3 days have passed since that stormy night, since Megan's arrest and Lydia's downfall. The divorce papers, a formality now, cleared yesterday, leaving them free, truly free, to choose each other. She slips out of bed, her bare feet padding to the kitchen, a smile tugging at her lips. Claire's already up, stirring oatmeal at the stove, her gray hair catching the light. Morning, honey, she says, glancing over. Your man still out? Evelyn nods, leaning against the counter. He's exhausted, been a wild week. Clara chuckles, spooning breakfast into bowls. Wild's an understatement. That boy jumped through hell for you. Good catch. Evelyn blushes, her heart swelling. He did, didn't he? She sets the table, the clink of dishes, a gentle rhythm, and Clara sits, her eyes sharp. So, you two sticking it out? No more fake marriage nonsense? Evelyn smiles, firm. No more fakes. It's real now. James stirs, joining them, his hair mussed, his sweater swapped for a borrowed tee. Smells good, he says, kissing Evelyn's cheek before sitting. Clara slides him a bowl, her grin sly. Better treat her right, Mr. CEO. I want great-grandkids someday. He laughs, a rare, full sound, and nods. Working on it, Clara. They eat, the room warm with chatter, Clara teasing James about his city ways, Evelyn laughing at his flustered replies. It's simple, this moment, but it's everything. A family stitched together from broken threads. Back at Carter Enterprises, Evelyn's design launches, the app a hit across Seattle. She's no intern now, but a designer, her name on the project, her sketches brought to life. James watches her present at a team meeting, her confidence quiet but unshakable, and feels a pride he can't voice. Megan's gone, locked away, her trial pending, and Lydia's vanish, her schemes dust. Henry Carter drops by, his cane tapping, his gruff voice praising Evelyn. "Knew you were a keeper," he says, clapping James's shoulder. "Don't mess this up, boy," James smirks. "Not planning to." That evening, James takes Evelyn to the rooftop of his penthouse, the city sprawling below, lights twinkling like stars. He pulls a small box from his pocket, a necklace inside, silver with a tiny hazel gem to match her eyes. "For you," he says, fastening it around her neck. "A promise. No more secrets, no more running." She touches it, her throat tight, and looks up. "You didn't have to," he shrugs, his hands finding hers. "Wanted to. You're my home, Evelyn. Took me too long to see it." She steps closer, her voice soft. "You're mine too. From that first text, I think." They stand there, the wind gentle, the world theirs for a moment. She thinks of Cloverfield, of Clara's laughter, of the warehouse shadows that nearly broke her. He thinks of Henry's will, of the empire he almost lost, of the girl who saved him without knowing it. "We started as strangers," she says, her head on his chest. "Yeah," he replies, his arms tightening. "And now we're everything." They kiss, slow and sure, the necklace cool against her skin, a symbol of a love forged in fire. Months later, life settles into a new shape. Evelyn splits time between Portland and Seattle, her designs thriving, her heart full. James softens, his edges smooth by her, his penthouse no longer a cold shell but a place they share. Clara visits, her health steady, her stories endless, and Henry joins them sometimes, grumbling about city traffic but smiling at Evelyn's sketches. They build something real, day by day, a future neither expected but both cherish. It began with a lie, a contract signed in haste, two souls tethered by chance. Evelyn, the dreamer from Cloverfield, and James, the king of Carter Enterprises, stumbled through secrets and storms to find each other. Now, as the sun sets over Seattle, they stand together, not just husband and wife by law, but by choice, their love a quiet triumph over every odd they've faced.